Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds for Sports. I'm about to be joined by Ken Weed from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show following a game that is worth talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I've said this a couple times this year. This may be best game we've seen the Winnipeg Jets play so far this year. It is a shining testament, I would suggest, to the games where you'll hear me talk about sometimes. I will talk more favorably about a loss than I will about a victory. And it will drive some people nuts, and they'll say, geez, did we not win? Or, all those different kind of things. It's why I call out games, even if there are wins where I don't think the Jets are playing right. And it's why, if you're talking about a loss, I'll hang a lot of good things to say about that loss, which I did after the game that they played against the Los Angeles Kings. That was a great game. And their coach recognized that. Like I said, overtimes are meaningless to me. I said after that game, because that's not how you win. If you think about that game the Jets played last night, yes, just last night against the LA Kings, who do you think would have won that in overtime? The way that the Jets were taking over that game, the way they were kind of shutting down and taking the hope away from the LA Kings, who do you think would have won that game in overtime? I think it would have been the Winnipeg Jets. When I say overtime, I mean playoff overtime, 5-on-5, not 3-on-3 overtime, which I enjoy, but it does not tell you who the better team is when they win a game. That takes 5-on-5 overtime to do that. What I like about that game, what the reason why I talk about that game, and it's a loss, but to me, I walk away from it thinking it's more of a victory than a lot of the Jets wins so far this season, is because you saw in that game so many things you want to see from the Jets. The willingness to go and grind against a team that knows how to grind. The ability to go out and play a playoff style of game. The ability to get better in that game as that game goes on. The ability to figure out a really tough opponent. And more importantly than anything, the ability to kind of get back to what really is the strength of this team, and that's its defense. Okay, I know the Winnipeg Jets are the highest scoring team in the league this year. I know that they've got this rip-roaring power play, and I know that scoring goals is fun. I think what we saw from the Winnipeg Jets starting around December was a Winnipeg Jets team that, kind of fell in love with the goal scoring and started kind of leaning in that direction. Scott Arniel had said at points throughout that stretch of hockey where the Jets were starting to falter a little bit that, this team's got to get back to what, is their bread and butter, and that's their defense. I think that game against the LA Kings, where the Jets went against maybe the hardest grinding defensive team in the NHL, or definitely one of the teams up there, and went and played against that team and matched them in that style, they started to take a look and think, okay, that's right. This is what we do best. Yes, we can score. Yes, we've got a great power play. Yes, if we want to open things up, we can do that. Yes, there's a lot of times we can be the worst team on the ice, but we can win it with opportunistic scoring because we're that dangerous. I think the Winnipeg Jets locked in last night and remembered who they were as a defensive team, and then just kind of continued that on into a game and said, hey, we tried it out against a really defensive team. Let's try it out against an offensive team and see what happens. And boy, oh boy, you saw what happened here tonight. Not sure if you saw during the show, but we showed the imbalance with the Colorado Avalanche lineup. Their top line, Jonathan Drouin, Mikko Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon, with as many goals, one goal more than all the rest of the forwards combined on that roster. You shut down that line, you're going to win the game. It's as simple as that. If you would have saw the broadcast, I did a bench interview with Adam Lowry before the game, asked him, kind of tongue-in-cheek, easy one for you first here, Adam, but how do you defensively shut down Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon? And he was ready with the answer. He knew what the Winnipeg Jets needed to do. You went out, you saw them execute. You saw them leave those players a little bit baffled on this night. They were not allowed to the home plate area. They were not allowed to the guts of the ice, as Scott Arniel calls them. And that's why the Winnipeg Jets won 3-0. That's why the Winnipeg Jets started to make the Colorado Avalanche look a little bit hopeless. That's why you saw that shot from our broadcast of Nathan MacKinnon on the bench getting a talk from Jared Bednar, who is trying to kind of, pick him up and show him a little bit of a different way. But this shutout number 6 for Connor Hellebuyck on the season as he just continues to go. I hope you Jets fans liked my opening where I brought up the idea of Hart Trophy for Connor Hellebuyck. Came up again in the broadcast. You like that? You like Renny, representing the market, regardless of whether you like it or not. I did it. I did it because it's just at this stage to me a factual thing to be bringing up. And so far this year, Nathan MacKinnon has faced Connor Hellebuyck twice. Head-to-head matters, like you heard me say in the opening. And right now, Connor Hellebuyck is putting up a stone wall against Nathan MacKinnon. And that's the last time they'll see each other. So put that in your back pocket when it's time to vote for the Hart Trophy at the end of the season. That's my take on this whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take on this whole thing. Here comes Kenny, folks. Listen, there's going to be lovers. There's going to be haters out there. The haters getting in here early. Alex99 says he didn't like that I brought up in the broadcast Ehlers' potential game-winning goal with 5 minutes left. I think Alex thinks this is akin to me saying shutout, which I did not say. This is just the distant cousin of worrying at this stage about someone saying shutout. Don't worry about it, Alex. Everything turned out okay. You can let it go. You can let it go now and move on. Other than that, Ken, always folks loving what we're wearing, as Marshall Patterson says, looking sharp, Ren Dog. And Dukes 403, as good as you're looking tonight in that Vittorio Rossi suit, a headband would really complete the ensemble. I couldn't agree more, so let's do it. Time to make this a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny Show. Here we go. Dukes 403 all over that with the Vittorio Rossi stuff. I got to say, Ken, this was one of the ones they sent me to the playoffs in last year. I don't know what to say about this. Hey, the tie makes the suit pop. The suit makes the tie pop. Renny likes his clothes to pop. They're popping here tonight, as are you, Ken. And of course, if you like your clothes to pop, you know what you do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corydon Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys. And I promise you, the boys down there, they know how to make you pop. And that's exactly what they will do. Ken, the Jets sure popped out to me tonight. Their defensive game especially. What did you take away from this game here tonight?
Impressive effort overall, for sure. Probably their best of the year from where I sit, especially given the circumstances of playing on a back-to-back. I mean, the Avalanche, it's not like the Avalanche were fresh. This is their 3rd and 4th. So, but again, they had the benefit of being in Winnipeg resting while the Jets were playing. So overall, it was impressive. Lots of good things, right from the top line being ready to roll to Nikolai Ehlers embracing a new responsibility to go along with the offense. We're going to dig deeper into that. Dylan Samberg was absolutely tremendous for me in the game. Led the Jets a nice time again today. Very impressive. I mean, again, it's a difficult task to ask of him to be playing 2 games in 24 hours, just over 24, just under 24 hours after being out sidelined with a broken foot. But yeah, I mean, it was, yeah, I mean, very, very impressive overall effort. The defensive effort was tremendous, Sean. I mean, Natural Stat Trick has these high dangers as 14-3 for the Jets in the contest 5-on-5. I mean, Hellebuyck was exceptional when he needed to, especially on that power play. His ability, we talk about the ability to read the play all the time. Sean, that one-timer from McKinnon, Hellebuyck was there before the pass was even at McKinnon.
Like, yeah, totally.
It was absolutely exceptional. So, impressive overall. This was, to me, again, like I said, given the circumstances, if the Jets lose this game, the Avalanche are 4 points behind them. They've won 2 of the 3 in the season series.
Yeah.
They beat Hellebuyck for the first time this year. All of the momentum is sort of on the Avalanche train, whereas on the flip side, the Jets absolutely stifled the offensive game of the Avalanche. At times frustrated. I know I like what you brought up. I mean, Nathan McKinnon was calm, but you could tell he was frustrated. We've seen him so many times just absolutely take over games by himself, Sean. There was always a first layer and a second layer and a third layer for him to try to power through, which to me was an incredible example of the commitment on that side to the team defense and structure. As you mentioned, I mean, we both spoke with Jared Bednar, and he talked about the Jets not just being a team that scores. The reason the Jets are where they are is because they defend and also have the ability to score. And that's something that has become their calling card. And to me, that was an important step forward for them in this one.
Let's get into Sandberg right away because people are bringing him up right off the bat. What did you see out of him tonight, Ken?
Yeah, it just darn impressive. Darn impressive. I just need 1 sec. You start and then I'll go. I just have to clean one thing up here. Sorry.
Okay. Well, here, this is, before I do get to that, I think this is the comment that was made earlier. Someone said something about the Montreal game, but, Edmonton, Chicago game commentators made mention of myself talking about Helly for the heart, and they agreed. So just so you know, Ken, what, we're on here, my opening I used as a chance to set up the idea of the Hart Trophy showdown between Nathan McKinnon and Connor Hellebuyck. I do this. People know that I take journalism very seriously. They know that I don't just throw things out there. It's why I come on here and I try and tell the truth of the way I see things in the face of people getting mad. Sometimes when you tell the truth, that's the job of a journalist. That's what you got to do. To me, this is like, I would have liked to have brought this up a little while ago. I wanted to kind of make sure we got into territory where it's like no one could, and still can. I got a very, very nasty tweet from someone out of Vancouver who was like, basically like, I wanted to say, are you okay? Like, find someone around you and try and get a hug. You are so angry about this. But they said that I embarrassed myself by bringing up Connor Hellebuyck as a Hart Trophy candidate. And it seemed to be like very Quinn Hughes focus that how dare I bring that up when Quinn Hughes is out there right now. And maybe they're not feeling like Quinn Hughes is getting the love, but just
Pristine Roofing wake up territory for that gentleman.
Oh, I don't know.
No?
I think that person is that person is hurting inside too.
Okay,
I always think when people reach out and throw like insane levels of hate at you and they don't even know you, like all I can think when that happens, I don't get offended, I don't get bothered. I'm like, who hurt you? Why are you okay? What is it that I could have possibly said that would trigger you to the degree that you would feel the need to attack me that bad? I don't know that I need to pile on to that person.
But not piling on. We'll give them the Pristine Roofing wake-up call in a positive manner to pick them up.
I don't think they're going to watch this. So let's give them a sunny Pristine Roofing.
For sure. Absolutely sunny.
Call, which, means that North End Rick is the guy you want to give the Pristine Roofing wake-up call to right now at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down, checking out everything you need to know for your roofing and siding or exterior needs for all those sunny days or those cloudy days, which that person seemed to be having. You can also call Pristine Roofing at 204-237-7663. You will be happy that you did. There will be no negativity in your life after making that phone call, at least when it comes to the exteriors on your home. Back to Sandberg.
Sorry, I missed a word in my original story. I just had to send it in on the editing side.
No
Sorry about
problem.
that.
No problem.
Sandberg, exceptional, Sean. I mean, on his first shift, he makes a clean, composed cross ice zone exit play to Nikolai Ehlers, and lo and behold, there's Ehlers exploding through the neutral zone, ripping a shot past Mackenzie Blackwood, who had been, nothing short of almost unbeatable for his tenure with the Avalanche so far. So in a game where the Jets didn't want to fall behind the Avalanche, knowing what they can do when they get a lead and kind of pour it on, Sandberg just makes a smart, simple, efficient, effective play, and totally totally tosses it aside like, oh yeah, no big deal. You put it in the skilled player's hands and let him do the work. But it's the amount of simple, efficient, smart plays that he made during the game itself that allowed Sandberg to be exceptional, to have Scott O'Neill throwing him and Neil Pionk over the boards against the McKinnon line for a bunch of the shifts. Now, it's not that they didn't use Morrissey and DeMello. They got their shifts against McKinnon as well, but it seemed to me that they were looking at that matchup a little bit more. And when you consider Dylan Sandberg was playing for just the second time since November 23rd, that is an incredible responsibility. Overall in the game, Sean, 28 shifts for 24-47, 3 shots on net, 6 shot attempts, 1 hit, 2 giveaways, 3 blocked shots. So yes, I mean, we were talking in the first period, there were a couple of stumbles, but Nathan McKinnon puts you on edge. So the good certainly far outweighed the bad. And much like we talked about yesterday, Neil Pionk is a completely different player with his stable partner. I mean, those guys were excellent in both of the games. So for me, what Dylan Sandberg does to his own pairing also extends sort of butterfly effect for the entire defense core. It's totally changed the complexion of the penalty kill, and overall having Dylan Sandberg has been just exceptional for the Winnipeg Jets, and they need him. Like, this just reinforces that they need him in their lineup for the stretch run and in the playoffs for him to be a key performer and contributor to them. And I just thought he was all over the place today. And again, it's hard to be all over the place when Nathan McKinnon is your primary opponent. So just absolutely. I mean, and again, when people saying that or wondering how you talked about Sean on various platforms, including with Maddie and Mike Fuda, like the loss of Sandberg, for people that are raising their eyebrow when you compared it to similar to Kyle Connor last year, because with the Jets, they have other offensive players. They don't have another defenseman that does what Dylan Sandberg does in that role, which made the hole so big for them. So, and again, we know that Nikolai Ehlers stepped in for Kyle Connor when he was gone. That is also part of the equation. So anyways, for me, Sandberg, just having him back has just totally turned the tables for the Jets on a lot of fronts for me.
So you covered a lot of that off. Full disclosure, I sent a text to Ken at the beginning of the game where I said that it looked that Sandberg looked a little slow. There was a couple plays where he went in and he just got kind of overtaken quickly, and to Ken's point, kind of bowled over by that Colorado team that has the ability to do that. I think what that was in retrospect, because after I sent that, Ken, you sent a text back to me, and I sent you one, and I think I sent that, or I meant to send one that said, like, yeah, ever since I said that, he's just been absolutely doing great. It can be getting back up to speed is not something that happens all in one shot and you're there. So I think what happens is he goes for a grinded out game against the LA Kings, and he falls into that pace and does really well at that pace. And then he gets into this game and it's a different kind of pace, right? As great as the Jets played defensively, they were playing against a different kind of pace. I think a couple times he got caught early with that pace. And then all of a sudden, Ken, probably by the time I sent you that text, he'd figured it out. And all of a sudden, he's just back to being this big, steady guy. And I'm going to say this, I don't need to add to what you said because you covered it off extremely well, but I'm going to go ahead already and I'm going to give the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game, because it was one of those things that I've said time and time again with Dylan Sandberg, that as big as he is, as good as his reach is, as smooth as he is, it's his defending IQ that makes him so good. And for me, what it was the net pulled. Nathan MacKinnon has the puck. I don't know who he's trying to pass it down to in the corner, but it's one of these plays where no one on the ice knows what Nathan MacKinnon is about to do except for Nathan MacKinnon and maybe the guy he's passing to. And he sets it up, gets the Jets defender to move his stick, and boom, throws it through the passing lane that's there. And then all of a sudden, go gadget stick, Dylan Sandberg is there. And it's not a desperation reach. He saw it coming. Dylan Sandberg is able to see star players trying to find an opening, and he's a step ahead of it. He knows how to shut it down. I think the Jets really, really miss that. I don't think it is a mistake at all, Ken, that I'm going to say this to this degree. Dylan Sandberg is a leader on this Jets team. He's a leader in the way that his style of play is the kind that encourages the rest of his teammates to be better defensively. It is not a fluke that he comes back into the lineup and the Winnipeg Jets allow one goal on non-3-on-3 periods. One goal in 6 periods of hockey against two of the best teams in the West. All of a sudden, the Winnipeg Jets are back, and the Winnipeg Jets are back to my point that I'm making the whole time, because Dylan Sandberg literally, in my opinion, was the hardest injury for the Jets to overcome in the last couple of years that we've seen, because he is key to the way that they play and the way that they defend. And for me, that's why he's got the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that is the Johnson Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs got you covered play of the game. Pretty early in the show here, I gotta say too, Ken, but well deserved. Let's move on to the line blending that happened here.
Sure.
Let's start with the new line 2. That was Nikolai Ehlers along with Adam Lowry. They get started off early. What did you see out of that line? Why do you think it worked?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, we know, just quickly on Scott O'Neill, I mean, he talked about the importance of this game. Then he basically took it to playoff levels, like in terms of subterfuge. Like he didn't even run those units in the pregame warmup. Which again, he's looking for an edge at every place that he can get one. And so sure enough, that line scores right away. And you're like, yep, great call there. Right. I mean, and that line was exceptional. I thought that Nikolai Ehlers' engagement was absolutely tremendous. Didn't see any hope plays whatsoever in the game itself. And again, when we talk about hope plays by Ehlers on Friday, that's because he's trying to make something happen on a line that is clearly frustrated with its inability to produce and generate enough offense as they would like to. So again, I wasn't down there because I was writing, but Ehlers flat out said he loved the responsibility. And Scott O'Neill talked about it after the game, saying it's intriguing now to him to think about the possibilities. So, I mean, there's some temptation, obviously, if we read between the lines, Sean, he's considering doing what Rod Brind'Amour has done with Jordan Staal, right? He's thinking about having Lowry play up with Ehlers and then using someone like Iafallo, could be Nino Niederreiter at some other point too, but in that role where you can handle the shutdown responsibility, but also provide a real boost in terms of the offense that can be created from it. So I liked everything about that line. I thought that, Adam Lowry isn't on the score sheet the way that Ehlers is today with the 2 goals, but I loved Lowry's game. I thought he was all over the place, physical, always in the right spots. It's such a challenge to go up against Nate MacKinnon, the rhinoceros on skates. We didn't see him explode through the neutral zone the way that I've seen so many times, Sean, but that's because of the layers and Iafallo working so incredibly hard. And I have to say, Craig Zamzow, Sean, on the last game after the game yesterday in the chat was saying time for Iafallo to get a boost onto the second line, and there he was. He was right. And speaking of Craig, ran into him on the concourse today with his daughter Crystal. She of Manitoba amateur golf fame and playing over in the States this year. So it's her first year over there. So yeah, I mean, that line was great. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They did everything you could ask of them and then produced 2 goals. So for me, I really liked what I saw. I'd like to see more. Again, I still have I think that at some point you try Niederreiter, but right now Iafallo earns the chance to get another look with it. I mean, that line was very good. And, Barron's another kind of guy that brings some of those same or similar qualities to the table. But I liked what it did for that line. And quite frankly, I thought that, there were times when Cole, he went to the blue paint. I mean, absolutely robbed by Blackwood on that incredible play by Nino Niederreiter, the one-handed play. So I also have lots of time for Nino Niederreiter playing with Perfetti as well, trying to get him going. So
we'll get into that. Let's get into that. I just want to weigh in on that line.
Yeah, of course.
I've got a good idea why it works. But first, I want to say you gave Craig Zamzow credit for saying on the podcast to put Iafallo up there. And how many weeks now have I been calling for Iafallo to make his way up onto the second line, and as a measure of moving in for Perfetti? Alex Iafallo is a guy that I think he's a sign of the ridiculous depth the Winnipeg Jets have. The fact that they've kept him on the fourth line as long as he has been on the fourth line. This is a player that's shown in the past he can very easily play a third, sometimes second line role. The fact that we haven't moved in there with it, I mean, one of the things we talked about on the show today, Ken, is in the last 20 games before this, and I guess now it's another game without a point for Cole Perfetti, but the last 20 games, Perfetti had 6 points, Nemestikov had 6 points. In the last 8 games before this game, the two of them had combined for just 1 point together. Like, the point I keep coming back to is you've got to get your second line scoring. It needs to start producing. Yep. It's not enough to be defensively sound. It's not enough to be just doing the right things out there. You've got to start going out there. Alex Iafallo has shown at every stage he can play with every line out there. So Iafallo, I love the idea of them moving up to the second line. Other than that, Nick Ehlers works with Adam Lowry. Here's why. Nick Ehlers at the Sarah Orleski and I had a talk with this before she headed out and talked with Nikolai Ehlers. We were underneath the bench there before he did the bench interview with her. Nick Ehlers, as fast as he is, when you think of a fast player, when you think of a guy who's shifty and has moves, you think of an east-west player. But that's not Nick Ehlers. Nick Ehlers, at the heart of it, is a very north-south player. You saw it on his goal tonight. He just skates really fast, kind of as straight a line as he can to get towards the net, and then whips that shot off. Adam Lowry is the ultimate north-south player. These guys fit because they're skating in the same direction. They've got the one, they do it in very different ways. One is a bull running at full charge. The other is a road runner going at full charge, but they both are looking straight at a target and running straight at it. They work because of that, because they're the same like-minded kind of player working in straight lines. Alex Iafallo, I personally think, can work with anything. He's a smart hockey player. Had he, if he had a shot that was like 40% more what his shot is, he'd probably be a star in the league. If he had, hands that were, that much more speed, like, this is a player who takes like everything he has, and the only thing that's keeping him from being, shot out of a cannon is the fact that all those kind of, if you wanted to break it down in like an NHL hockey style, like hands, speed, all those different kind of things, he'd be a little bit further down the list. But at the same time, such a good player and can play anywhere he wants. So I take a look at those guys. It seems to work. It seems like it's brought in a little bit of a defensive acumen. And the other part about Nick Ehlers is he's gone to the net quite. How many times have we seen Nick Ehlers tipping pucks in front of the net this year? He's going to the dirty area in front of the net, the same kind of area that Lowry likes to go to. So in a lot of ways, sounds crazy to say, but Nikolai Ehlers and Adam Lowry, There's a lot of parts about their game that I find to be similar, and that's why I think they work. That's why I think they jive. Let's get into the third line. You just touched on it, but putting Niederreiter with Cole Perfetti, what did you like about it? What worked for you, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, like, just think Nino encourages you to get to the blue paint. So, I mean, I like the fact. I mean, we were talking about this with Scott O'Neill yesterday morning before the game at the Kings. So, if you're struggling to score, go to the area around the net, tip goals off the shin pads, off the pants, whatever. In this case, one-handed play by Niederreiter, glorious attempt by Perfetti, and just a ridiculous save by Blackwood, who kicked out the right pad. So I like the fact that at least he was going to those areas. There were some good defensive plays again, but again, you got to elevate the offensive portion. So I think that playing with a heavy player like Niederreiter is something that can help him. This is what I've been saying for quite a bit of time now. So I like the fact that they tried it. I think that speed element with Kupari certainly helps back off the defense and maybe create some openings for both Niederreiter and Perfetti to get shots off. Yeah, but I mean, is that what I think it's going to land at? I mean, no. I mean, Nemestikov, when he's ready to go, I mean, it's his lower body, blocked a shot day-to-day officially. So we'll see what happens after that. But I didn't mind it. I mean, it's worth giving another spin. And if Nemestikov's there, it's worth seeing what that's going to look like as well. So I thought that they did a pretty solid job overall. And yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for the Jets today, Sean, all the line changes, everything else, 3 of the 4 lines are different. They had 0 passengers in the game. And you can't afford to have passengers against the Avalanche. So for me, that was the biggest achievement for the Jets. There was no thought of, it's back-to-back. Somebody may not have their legs. Everyone was going for the Jets. I mean, was it an A-plus game? No, but they were all involved in the game, and that was important. And Sean, even Dominic Toninato was involved in the game. In his first game with the Jets this year, he's over the boards for almost 2 minutes of penalty killing time. The captain of the Manitoba Moose, playing against one of his former teams. So that we always talk about trust. Scott O'Neill ran the penalty kill last year. He trusts Dominic Toninato to go out there, and that's what he does. So that was impressive also. So all to say that still room for improvement, obviously, for Perfetti and that line, but I liked some of the elements that they were bringing to the table in the game itself.
Hey, I was reminded because people are texting me. A lot of the sucky boo-boos didn't make the last show. I had announced on it. My daughter, just like my daughter last year, and a lot of people at the K&R meet and greets had asked me to make sure that I announced this. So just my daughter is raising money by selling frozen pizzas for her band trip. I announced it on the last show. If you're interested, and thank you so much to all the people who've reached out already. It's very much appreciated. My daughter will, I will force her to make an appearance on the next K&R to thank all the folks who've done the purchasing here. But if you are interested, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds, or if you know how to get a hold of me in any of my other platforms, I can send you the order form. You send it to me, and we'll take care of it and deliver them to your front door. Renny will be there with his daughter to deliver them to your front door. I just wanted to get to that third line and say this. Perfetti gets that chance. Now, it's a chance that basically it is the entirety of the play is Nino Niederreiter, right? Like he just goes like again, bull in the china shop, drives to the front of that, goes there. But the reason that works is because it gets Cole Perfetti to do what we've been talking about on this show so much, Ken, about what he needs to do. He needs to get to the dirty areas of the ice and get to the front of the net. So what happens in that situation is Nino Niederreiter plays this direct style of game that you're not getting. Now, I said straight lines with Nikolai Ehlers, but Nikolai Ehlers is straight lines getting in for scoring opportunities like he had here tonight. He's not exactly the guy who just takes it and pushes it and crashes it to the front of the net. That is what Nino Niederreiter does. And in doing so, basically forces Cole Perfetti to go there in that situation. And what happens? He gets a grade A chance, a grade A opportunity in doing that because he goes to the very place on the ice, Ken, that we've been talking about over and over for Cole Perfetti to get to give himself an opportunity. Here's my deal. I was thinking about this earlier on today. Cole Perfetti does not have the puck enough to play the style of game that he's trying to play. So I've talked about it in the past. Cole Perfetti likes to slice and dice from distance. He likes to make those long passes. If you think about it, there was one last year that stands out really in my head, in spite of, all the ones that stand out from this season, that 4-point game or whatever it was that he had against San Jose, but where, he fakes the kind of the shot and makes that pass, and Nick Ehlers is right there for a tap in. Everyone on the ice is beat. That's Cole Perfetti at his best. Here's the issue with that is you take a look at a guy who's able to slice and dice from distance in his career. It's Mark Scheifele. If you take a look at a guy who's been able to do that, Blake Wheeler did that as well. These are the kind of guys who can cut you up from distance. And there was a time in Mark Scheifele's career where it seemed like that's all he wanted to do, right? And people got a little bit frustrated with Mark Scheifele. Hey, keep in mind, before he was re-signed, tons of people on this show were talking about Mark Scheifele being moved down the road. I very specifically remember saying, be careful what you wish for. This is a player that put in the right situation with the right mindset is going to go somewhere else and be a star on another team. He found that situation. He found that mindset here in Winnipeg, and you're seeing this happen from him. But Mark Scheifele moves into second in NHL scoring. And one of the reasons he's scoring more is because he's doing that. He's going to the front of the net. Yeah, in goals scored. He's going to the front of the net. He's going to the dirty areas. He's finding other ways to score. He's not just being that guy with his back on the wall trying to slice and dice from distance. Mark Scheifele, when he did do that, had a lot of opportunities to do that because he will grind and he'll go get the puck on the boards, and he's extremely hard to get the puck off of. So he's got a lot of time with the puck on his stick, a lot of time to slice and dice. And even in saying that, the point I'm making is that as good as he was at having that time and slicing and dicing from distance, he's got better because he's changed his outlook and he gets to the net more often. Cole Perfetti, to me, is not the player that Mark Scheifele is. He does not have the ability to possess the puck as long as Mark Scheifele does. He does not have the capability or the time to open up the ice for himself to slice and dice. So in the opportunities where he has, it's worked and it's looked really good. It's why I also always said that what I see from Cole Perfetti is a player who does it against disorganized or kind of a step behind opposition. It's not going to go that way for Cole Perfetti in his career. He needs to get to a point where he finds other ways. Now, when there is slicing or dicing oppositions to be had from distance in games, by all means, he's got that element of his game. He can do it. Trot it out when you can. What you're seeing from this player is at the NHL level, there's not a lot of opportunity to trot out that kind of offense. That's why there's swaths of games where he's not producing. He's got to start adding different dimensions to his game, different dimensions that are like trying to get it to the front of the net, learning to pass in a crowd, not getting away from the crowd and trying to slice and dice from distance. Tonight was an example of the things he needs to do to give himself more opportunities. But even then, it was one of those opportunities. It's not enough for a guy who's supposed to be in the top six. I will say this to add to the finality of my point. People have been talking. Someone tweeted us, Ken. It was a tweet earlier on. I don't have it to bring it out, but the idea of getting Cole Perfetti down against lesser competition to get him down in a third line, fourth line role. I'm glad people are finally starting to see that when I said that about him moving down for a guy like Iafallo or Chibrikov moving into that spot, it's not the insult people were trying to make it out to be. It is just looking at trying to get a player a different look in a different situation or a little bit of motivation. Maybe moving him down the lineup works. And maybe you get a little bit more of those slicing and dicing opportunities. But to me, in the end, this is a player that needs to start adding more layers to his game to become what he can be in the NHL. Because the one thing he's trying to rely on, he's not as high level as a guy like Mark Scheifele, who lived off that for a lot of years. And even Mark Scheifele knows he needed to grow out of that. Cole Perfetti needs to grow out of that as well.
I think the line blending is a good candidate for the Cambrian.
Payoff, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
buddy.
for sure it is. I mean, if you take a look at what they did here tonight, we were talking about this organization and the fact, the one thing I was saying is they're kind of built in a certain way where, they can't or don't seem to want to move things around. An injury forces them to move something around. And now all this interesting, you opened up Pandora's box, all of these interesting things pop out. And the things that did pop out tonight, no doubt paid off. And if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambridge Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. You might as well give Sweet Lou a shout out while you're at it, Ken.
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, buying, selling, curious what the house in the corner is going for, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of our fine community, including our podcast.
Before we move on, credit where it's due. The DJS76, the grumpy math teacher, is the one I was referring to before online, who said to us, Ken, how much is 91's jump based on weaker opponents? The jump on this night he's referring to. Playing against the bottom six and the second, third pair might just be the tonic that 91 needs. It would mean a change in philosophy by the Jets, a balanced top nine, no clear shutdown line, paging Ken Wiebe and Sean Reynolds on this call. I hope we did service to the conversation that you helped spark with that reach out that we got there tonight. Ken, where do you
they
want
still
to go?
did have a clear shutdown line, though. I mean, that
No
Lowry
doubt.
line played against McKinnon almost all night long. The only reason they didn't is because McKinnon plays 25 minutes a night. So, point is still well taken for sure.
Though, it's crazy to think that Nikolai Ehlers was part of that shutdown line.
Well, this is the whole thing. Philosophically, right, but I mean, now it's like when Ehlers we thought he was joking about wanting to be on the penalty kill, right? So, I would like to give it a longer leash, and honestly, it probably dials Ehlers in even more. Not that he's not dialed, but knowing that you can't afford a, backhand sauce cross ice play against a McKinnon or a Rantanen, it probably helps simplify the other parts of his game. You never want to take away his creativity or his speed or any of those things, but if you can use that speed on the defensive side, similar to what we've been talking about Kyle Connor all year long, Sean, with the backtracking and the defensive acumen that he has shown, if Ehlers is given the responsibility to do that and can handle the responsibility, man, it opens up a lot of options, both for that line itself and about trying to win the matchup game with lines 3 and 4 for sure.
We have to talk about Connor Hellebuyck. We have to talk about Mark Scheifele. But before we do that, this is the one thing that stands out in this. I take a look at this and I'm tempted to say, okay, this is the Winnipeg Jets taking one of the hottest teams in the NHL and absolutely kind of breaking them. To your point, you talked about McKinnon being frustrated. You talked about the way that he looked on the bench. I saw the exact same things. I'm tempted to look at this and kind of really plant a feather in the cap of the Winnipeg Jets and say, okay, this is one of those moments they took a step forward, except for one thing, Ken, and I want your take on it. The Winnipeg Jets did this to the Colorado Avalanche time and time again last season, and then went into the playoffs and got spanked by the same Colorado Avalanche team. Is there a reason you believe their results this year would suggest things are going to be or should be different?
Or could be different is certainly the word I would use. And again, I think there's a great example in the game. I mean, we talked about the Avalanche, taking the Jets' lunch money in terms of getting to the blue paint in front of Hellebuyck and scoring 7, 8, or 9 goals that were tip-ins or rebound goals. So there's a great example in the second period, Sean. Hellebuyck never saw it, but he fought through the point shot. I think it was Sam Malinsky, a bunch of people in front, and he got his body in front of it and found a way to make the save. I think this is one of the things when Connor Hellebuyck went into the goalie lab in the summer, he was trying to find other solutions for how he can battle through, work his way around screens and some of those things. Not that he wasn't trying to do it last year. It just was something that's an area they took it to the Jets in, aside from special teams, especially on the power play. That's one of the reasons. I think that the Jets, they won't abandon the structure. I'm not saying they totally abandoned the structure, but they were rattled by what was happening and then falling behind. The Avalanche at times can be a bit of a death wish in the playoffs, just with the way they're able to kind of get the momentum and the snowball kind of going downhill. I think the Jets' ability to play a more patient game would allow them to go toe to toe. Now, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, the Avalanche were missing Val Nichushkin up front, who had 7 goals in that series, Sean. They were missing their fourth best defenseman, third or fourth best defenseman, depending on the day, who normally plays on the second pairing with Josh Manson, so in Sam Girard. So, again, injuries part of the game, but the Avalanche have been dealing with injuries all year, so we know this. They've used 39 players, and from talking with Jared Bednar, the benefits for them is that they've spent this last span of time when becoming the hottest team in the NHL doing exactly what the Jets did tonight. They basically took the Avalanche template, which is their own template, and used it against them and completely shut them down the way that the Avalanche have been shutting down their opponents as they've made this remarkable run up the standings in the Central Division. So for that would be another reason the Jets should have hope if they ran into the Avalanche, whether it was a B in the first round or the second round, that they could go toe-to-toe with them and maybe have a different result. But you have to do almost everything perfect in a series against them, and it's almost impossible to be perfect when they're cruising at all cylinders. But again, this weekend as a whole, Sean, in taking those 3 or 4 points, the Jets know the games are getting harder from games 41 to 82, and then even harder again. They answered both challenges exceptionally well, and that's sort of I know it's the same for you, even though some people are unhappy, Sean. I wasn't getting a lot of fraud commentary in my mentions today. I don't have a lot of people texting me saying, "Oh man, the Jets are only beating up on the weaker thans in the league." Like, they played against 2 Western Conference powerhouses and showed well in both of those games. Now they're up to 6 points out of a possible 10 on the homestand, but they still have 3 important games left this week, and they'll also play Colorado the following Wednesday in Colorado and Denver, and they're expected to have at least Nichushkin back and possibly Girard again. So it's another great test just around the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, it's tempting. You want to, as a Winnipeg Jets fan, feel like the Winnipeg Jets arrived and they took a hot Colorado team and they took them to the woodshed, and this is the arrival moment. Jets are up 2-1 in this season series. The Jets were far and away the worst team in their first victory. It was Connor Hellebuyck stole that one. Maybe you're getting some build up and some belief by Connor Hellebuyck, in the fact that he's beating the team that kind of, victimized him in the playoffs last year, except for the fact that didn't Connor Hellebuyck, I think we said on the broadcast tonight, this is the 3rd straight shutout Connor Hellebuyck has had against this team. The one thing I'll say about this, for all those folks who are thinking, okay, this is it, lock this moment in time, the Jets are better than the Colorado Avalanche, that's the way that it's going to play out. The one thing, Ken, that you and I know from behind the scenes, and you touched on it because you had a good conversation with Jared Bednar, who is, I think, maybe the best coach to talk to as a journalist in the NHL, because he just never lies. He gives you shouldn't say never lies, but he's never afraid of telling you the truth and saying those kind of things out loud. What that results in is he's a really good coach, and he's going to be able to go in tonight and say all the things that team did wrong, and he's going to have answers on how they can do it better. And that's why that's a dangerous team, not just because they have all these weapons, but they have a really smart guy who's got their trust behind the scenes, who knows how to alter and activate those weapons. So as happy as you want to be about this, and Ken pointed this out, 3 points out of 4 against 2 really, really good teams in the last couple of days is most definitely a reason to take a snapshot of the Winnipeg Jets, where they are right now, and be happy with what they are capable of doing against top teams in the league. But don't think for a second that snapshot is going to stop the Colorado Avalanche where they were on this night and define them going forward. This is a team that's got a lot of different places to go compared to where they were tonight here.
They beat them 7-0 in the second last game of the year last year. That meant absolutely nothing in the playoffs, not even in game 1. So they got to do it when it counts. But again, you want to change the narrative. Hey, Jets took an important step in doing that, by going, taking 3 of 4 against these two teams. I mean, April, May, June is when it's going to matter most, but you can't ignore the games that are being played now. The Jets are taking important steps to being better when it counts, and this was another massive showing of that.
Yeah. Connor Hellebuyck, touch on him. Let's touch on Connor Hellebuyck and Mark Scheifele quickly.
Yeah, right on. Hellebuyck, very good, except, he didn't have to be dynamic, but he was also exceptional in the way that he made things look incredibly easy. I think this was a typical big and boring, but it was his ability to read the ice and scan and know where the plays were going that allowed things to look easier. I mean, there were still some important saves against Rantanen, against McKinnon, against Makar. Makar was everywhere in the first period, Sean. Almost played half the first period. I think 9:38 of ice time. He was everywhere in all three zones. And then, what happened in the second period? Josh Morrissey makes a crazy great play, and we'll deal with that in a second. But I thought Hellebuyck was very solid. I thought that, for all the people saying, oh, what the heck were the Jets doing playing Comrie on Friday? I mean, again, I didn't get any of those messages today either, Sean.
Yeah.
It turns out that the coach and the goalie coach occasionally know what they're doing. And again, I'm being facetious here. They know what they're doing almost every single time, which is why they're in those roles to begin with. That's not to say that errors don't happen, but the errors are kind of rare. They know what goes into the decisions. I thought Hellebuyck was very good, 22 save shutout. And Sean, the crazy thing here, as Doug Henderson pointed out, Hellebuyck has as many shutouts as losses in 34 starts this year. That's bananas. That's absolutely bananas to have the same number of shutouts as losses. That reinforces the Hart discussion that you rightly put at the start of the broadcast. And yeah, I mean, we're not the only people talking about that, but I'm glad that you were.
Two things I want to say about Hellebuyck. This is, I think, the third shutout he's had this season. And hey, I'm giving him credit. The last game that the first game they played against the Avalanche this year is a game he stole outright. The game that he played, this is another one of those nights that he didn't have to be brilliant. Like, this is back to the Winnipeg Jets make him a better goaltender. Connor Hellebuyck, the Winnipeg Jets are extremely lucky to have him, but Connor Hellebuyck is extremely lucky to have the Winnipeg Jets. That said, Ken, the big and boring style you're talking about, Gary Galley pulled out a perfect example on what you're talking about. The play that he makes on one of the power plays where before the pass even gets there, he's there and waiting for it. Good players learn. Nathan McKinnon gets the puck on a similar pass one time, knowing that Connor Hellebuyck is going to be there, and he delays. And what he does is he delays to open up that spot right above Connor Hellebuyck's shoulder. And before he shoots it there, Connor Hellebuyck gets up and shrugs and takes it away. I talked about Dylan Samberg being in the opposition's head. Connor Hellebuyck was in Nathan McKinnon's head. He knew what Nathan McKinnon was going to do before Nathan McKinnon was doing it. And when a goaltender knows what is going to happen, they more often than not will stop that shot. He was brilliant tonight. Mark Scheifele, just the fact that he pulls into a tie for second in scoring. I want you to take quickly on this because we do got to get moving. And then I'm going to use it as an opportunity, as I so often do, Ken, to pat myself on the back when you're done.
Yeah, I mean, that line I just thought was awesome in the game. And Sean, Arneal, we know what happened in the playoffs. Casey Middlestad was great against the Jets. Right now he's in a bit of a funk. Demoted to the third line. Juuso Parson playing ahead of him on the second. But today, Scheifele went out against Middlestad a lot, and he had to work his behind off to win the battle in that head-to-head. I thought that Velarde was great in the game. Kyle Connor was great. But again, I thought that Scheifele was in driving play. I know that he threw it was a bit of I wouldn't call it a full cross check, but he hit Calvin DeHaan close to the Smirnoff billboard, and DeHaan was not happy, and he took a run at Scheifele in the corner, right in front of you in the corner, a shift later. But I felt like it had Scheifele kind of ready to roll because he threw a big hit at the Avalanche bench. He was very engaged. I thought he was skating very well. And overall in the game, I really liked a lot of what I saw. Ice time down slightly, 18:30 for Scheifele. That was because the Lowry line played a little more. 3 shots on net, 4 shot attempts. I just really liked a lot about his game. And again, we're going to deal with the lamplighter shortly. And we're going to talk a little bit more about him, but feel free on the padding on the back now.
Yeah, okay, let's get to it. I was right. All that time that I said that Mark Scheifele was going to make Team Canada, I was right. I was so right that I was right ahead of Team Canada. It is ridiculous at this stage that Mark Scheifele is not on that team. Like, this is just one
Triple
of those
bogey territory.
one of those. And I mean, I get it. Team Canada always has so much in the way of talent that sometimes it's hard to kind of pick from that pool of talent. But I was right from the beginning of the year. I was saying it before anyone else was. Mark Scheifele should be on Team Canada. He's just continued to go on and go on and go on this year, but he's doing what I saw in him at the beginning of the year, which was why I was saying it's a no-brainer that he should be on that team. The fact he's not on that team is just ridiculous at this stage. Second in scoring in the NHL, the highest scoring Canadian in the NHL right now. He's doing everything right. He's going in games like this time and time again, Ken, where he's finding a way to elevate to a place where other star players are in the game, and he's finding a way to elevate above the other star players. Mark Scheifele, this is his arrival moment. Kyle Connor, Gabe Vilardi was absolutely brilliant on this night. But boy, oh boy, the fact that Mark Scheifele is not on Team Canada, hey, I just go ahead and pencil the guy in for the Olympics next year, because Canada will have learned their lesson by then, because maybe they'll have tuned in to a couple of KNR episodes to find out what we've known the whole time and what you all know here in Winnipeg and in Jets fan world, that Mark Scheifele is clearly one of the best Canadians in the game right now, one of the best players, period, in the game right now, and he more than belongs on that Four Nations team. Ken, time to move on. What's your hashtag the keg save of the game?
Actually, I think it was his save off Rantanen, the first one of the first chances of the game. I really thought it. I mean, Rantanen was a bit frustrated by the attempt, but I thought that was just another great example of a great read. Love the save against McKinnon too, and honorable mention to Blackwood on Perfetti. But on a night when Hellebuyck had the 22 save shutout, I'm going to go with the save on Rantanen, even though there were a couple of other ones in there as well.
I'm going to go with this one right here. I'm going to steal from the audience. Coachy51.
Borrow, not steal.
I'm stealing it. I'm stealing this. Hashtag keg save of the game by Coachy51 is Bucky on McCarr, slap shot through a crowd in the third, no accident. Once again, Gary Galley does a phenomenal job of breaking down goaltenders for, a former player who was not a goaltender, but he just raved about this save because he said he never sees this puck, but he gets it, and he gets it solidly because it's a positional save. Just perfect positioning by Connor Hellebuyck. Not so really, if you take a look at, there was not a lot challenging him tonight, although we talked about those other ones. My other one would have been that shoulder save on Nathan McKinnon. Right. But this one here, absolutely love this idea, because this is the idea of the things that the other night, a goal got through Comrie. That was the one that ended up taking it into overtime. Those are the kind of ways that teams score when they can't get to the front of the net, like the Jets. And we didn't talk enough about that, the way the Jets took care of the guts of the ice tonight. But that's one of those goals that goes in on a lot of goaltenders because they can't see anything. It doesn't go in on Connor Hellebuyck because perfection is what you would call the way he was handling that, not being able to see that puck at that time. That's my hashtag, the keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what I think or what Ken thinks, matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag, the keg save of the game. You are automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And the winner of our keg save of the game from last game, that would be Manny Fran. Manny Fran, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me an email, and I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And that brings us
Manny Fran at the game today. Sean ran into him among several other folks on the concourse there as I was grabbing some lumpia on the Filipino night in the arena. So had a good visit with him there.
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying this. By the name, I had thought Manny Fran would have been a female. But there you go. If you know who Manny Fran is, there you go. Hashtag TCB Lamplighter. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, for me, it's the Scheifele goal. Yes, it's an empty netter for him, but it's what went into it. And I know the Ehlers goal is super important, set the tone, all of those things. But in a game where Cale Makar was here, there, and everywhere, Josh Morrissey with classic activation station gets down, takes the pass from Scheifele, and the saucer pass that he makes to get it to land on Kyle Connor's stick in the slot, exceptional. And some people were wondering if that was an accident, what Kyle Connor did getting the puck to Scheifele. That was no accident. Kyle Connor knew that he was being pressured by two different players and there was a third in the vicinity, and he wasn't going to be able to get a shot through. He identifies that Mark Scheifele is open. He battles because someone's trying to hold his stick, and he gets enough of it to get it to the back door. Scheifele bangs home his 25th, which leaves him tied for second in the NHL in goals. I think that was a repeatable goal. Not that the Ehlers goal is not a repeatable goal, because it is. And again, it set the tone 72 seconds in. But for me, getting the Jets needing to get that breathing room, that's why I'm giving it the slight nod in the lamplighter, even though both of those goals were dynamite.
I'm just all about stealing from the audience on this night here, so I'm going to go in this direction. Sunny side up, says the TCB lamplighter. The Ehlers goal in the first minute set the tone for the game. I agree. I also like how he just played off the way that line works with its direct lines, kind of not only set the tone, but just kind of showed the pathway to success that line could have as long as it is together. Regardless, doesn't matter what I think or what Ken thinks. Matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag TCB Lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny or Renny to gift you your own 8-pack, head on down to 11290 Kenniston Avenue. Join them at TransCanada Brewing Company in their tap room, where they've got plenty of the nectar of the gods, along with a lot of other great beers, great food, great pizza, great staff, and a great atmosphere. Everything about that place is great, as I'm sure our next winner is going to think it's great that they have won, because the TCB Lamplighter winner from the last game, that would be Tracy Evans Burr. Tracy, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me an email, and I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. It is the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we go?
No, another fun tilt. Building was nearly full. I think 14, almost 14-8. So fun atmosphere in the game itself, and thought it was a fun game overall. And as you mentioned, I mean, it's great. Had a great chat with Cale Makar today. Jared Bednar, very insightful, and I really had a good chat with Dylan DeMello also. A lot of the stuff that he talked about was very applicable to how the game was played, and Jets puck management exceptional. Not a lot of turnovers. And I just thought it was a complete team effort, and they basically, this was the Jets template kind of at its pinnacle in a lot of ways for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right. In my effort to steal this entire show from the audience, I am going to steal. Where did I lose it? I may have lost it. Okay, Gift Guy says, get your pizza orders in. One last reminder, you've got until tomorrow to do it. If you would like to support my daughter on her pursuit to sell frozen pizzas, the one thing I will say, it's Rocco's Pizzas from Steinbach. We loved it last year. Anyone else who out there who got it, if you want to talk with them, we think it's a really good deal. The one thing I will say, I've got a good buddy that we always kind of support each other's kids, and he dropped $100 in frozen pizzas. I dropped $100 in raffle tickets. He walked away with $100 in pizzas. I walked away with a raffle ticket that I never win regardless. So the one thing about this is you're probably getting something that's very close to the price of what you'd be buying it for anyways, but you'd be supporting my daughter in the process. So anyone who would be interested, you know what to do. Direct message me, get a hold of me however you can, and I will send you the order form and get things in. I do very much appreciate any kind of support that we do get. Thank you so much, as we always appreciate the support that we get from the Kenny and Renny crew. You know who else appreciates it is our sponsors, who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that is Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Cambrian Credit Union, the Kenny and Renny OGs, and the Johnson Group, and of course TransCanada Brewing Company and the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. I hope you all enjoyed these last couple of games here, because it's a sign of a very healthy team that is trending in the right direction. We will do this all over again on Tuesday when the Vancouver Canucks come rolling into town. We'll see our guy Murph as he comes rolling in, and that crew. You'll, of course, be watching it on TSN at that time. And after that, we will all get together and convene to have a conversation about it like we always do on the Kenny and Renny post-game show. Thank you for joining us for this one. Talk to you later, folks.